as we speak. Okay, so the first item of business that I would like to propose to you, a proposition, is this. What if we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays for an extra 20 minutes and not meet on Fridays?
Yeah. I like it.
Okay? Anybody have any classes after this that are going to ruin it for everybody else, including me?
No.
MTS, you okay with this? Oh, hell yeah. So no treats on Fridays anymore because we're not going to meet on Fridays. So this might be the only one. Okay. I just had that idea because there was nobody in this class afterwards. I double checked. Nobody's in this class. And last time I taught it was Tuesdays and Thursdays, which we did, and it worked just fine. So we'll do that. We'll meet an extra 20 minutes on Mondays and Wednesdays and not meet on Fridays. He doesn't have a say. Okay. And then also Joe, and they could ruin it for everyone. They could ruin it for everyone because technically I can't change the class time. Oh, here's Bryce. Bryce, would you be okay? Were you okay if we meet an extra 20 minutes on Mondays and Wednesdays and not meet on Fridays? Okay. Yeah. I mean, technically, I think that's short. There's 10 minutes not accounted for. Should we? We could do 25 extra minutes, but I'm just like, let's just short it. I'm okay shorting it. Okay, so.
You just want to ski.
No, I just don't want to be here until 4 o'clock.
Right now.
4 o'clock on a Friday, until 4 o'clock on a Friday. Nobody wants to be here, so I think I have to be here for the other class, but then sticking around after this, like, why not just crank it out? Okay, so I'm just gonna start going through these notes right now and kind of demonstrating a few things, and then there's some exercises that I'm gonna have you guys do, right? And so you can start doing potentially some of your first MATLAB coding that will happen today. So did everybody have a chance to install MATLAB on their computers? Maybe? Okay. Yeah, well, in the meantime, you could be installing it. Right? And like I said, you just want to add it. There's 2 packages, the symbolic and statistics. And if you saw there's hundreds of them, or 100 of them that you can choose from. And those 2 are ones that we will use eventually. It's okay if you didn't put it on there because if you try using one of the commands that are from that package, it'll prompt you to install it later, so it's fine. Okay. Oh, I wanted to show you one more example of my unlimited power here. So this is from Structural Dynamics, which did you boo it?
No.
I thought you booed.
No,
I thought you booed it.
Boo Structural Dynamics.
And so this is just to show you another example of something that you cannot do in Excel. And so this is a 3-story structure that's been pulled back to a certain amount, and then we're going to let go of it, and it's going to oscillate. And then we use this method called modal analysis to do it. But then afterwards, after I do the modal analysis, which uses eigenvalues and eigenvectors and things of that nature, I'm able to animate it with MATLAB as a cool learning tool, but also something that is worthless in the real world. Yeah. They are sick. So we're in then, right? Oh, except for Hudson could ruin it.
Nah, he's not.
You don't think? How do you?
You're never gonna forget him if he does.
You're right. You're right. None of us will. None of us will. Anyways, this is another example of something cool that you can do with this. I meant to show you last time.
Mike, are these notes for like the rest of the semester?
Yeah, I just put them all. And actually, in fact, you don't have to write a single thing because none of it's fill in on your own. So, which is weird. It's dangerous. Yeah, because you'll doze off. You'll doze off in here, especially if you're sitting behind me. Keep an eye on you, Caleb. Okay, bring your laptops. Last time I tried typing it just got weird. And then a lot of the time we're going to be spent where you're actually doing things, and so it works fine. So if you don't have one, borrow one. So everybody's got one, right? Everybody's installed MATLAB. Lots of toolboxes. Resources. So this is an important thing to talk about, right? I've got a couple books if that's what you want, but now with online and ChatGPT and all this other things, you don't really need it. MATLAB Help is very beneficial. Let me show you MATLAB Help really quick. All right. So if you have your MATLAB, I don't want it fully. I want it bigger here. there's a bunch of different ways you can access it, but the easiest is just click this little question mark up there, right? And then it brings you to the MATLAB help. And you get from this, it gives you all sorts of instructions on certain functions, and they give you examples of using the functions. And you can actually, even within the help, run certain functions within the help. It'll kind of demonstrate to you how they work, right? So that's a huge a huge thing to help you reference is MATLAB. MATLAB help. There's also this thing called MATLAB Central. So I've got that one open here. Well, and this one's an interesting one. Well, where the heck? MATLAB Central. Everybody see it on there? MATLAB help. They've got this Apple artificial intelligence thing and AI solutions. I haven't played with that at all. Did you find MATLAB Central?
I don't know, I just found a description, like a video.
Oh, MATLAB Central, there it is, right? This thing, it's interesting. There's this community of MATLAB users, and what they do, they have this file exchange is the biggest thing. So sometimes an example would be, one time I was putting together that one document that showed that it has the loads and it showed resonance, where the resonance came from, and there's arrows pointed different directions. Like, I wanted to make an arrowhead in my animation. I didn't know how to do that. Well, somebody already did it, and they put it on MATLAB Central, and I was able to download their function and use their function, right? And so it's a lot of people take something they've learned and they put it on this MATLAB Central. And so if you're really getting creative and getting deep into some of these things, using this MATLAB Central could be really beneficial for you. So just know that exists. I started messing around. They've added a bunch of other things. This file exchange is what I was talking about. But they also had this AI chat playground. Yeah. And then you could tell it stuff over here. This is for a learning experience, possibly. I mean, again, I don't like ChatGPT will do this for us as well, but it's very similar to that. It's like, oh, I want a plot of x to the second for, x equals negative 10 to 10 or something like that, right? And then I think if I enter that, it'll interpret what I said and give me code. Right, is that what it's doing? Yeah, there it is, right? And so that's an interesting, and that's just within MATLAB Central. I just found that today when I was poking around. AI chat playground, right? They have discussion forums. They have this Cody, which is clever, because I think it's like a play on coding, and it's just like this little guy named Cody. Can you see that? You see that? You were squinting, Noah. You were squinting. Did you forget your glasses today?
Oh, I have my glasses.
Okay. There's a computer right there's a screen right there that you might be able to see that one better. But Cody, I started playing with this a little bit. I didn't quite. It's like a game that you could play. I was like, oh, this would be kind of interesting to see if I could do it. But I didn't quite understand how to work it. But just know that that's a resource that's floating around as well. MATLAB On-Ramp. So that's another thing that you can get. MATLAB Academy, MathWorks, Detail, MATLAB On-Ramp. And it just basically starts from the very beginning and just teaches you. It's like if you didn't have me to teach you, this MATLAB On-Ramp wouldn't be a bad idea. You open it up and it steps you through like just coding from the very beginning. Googling is also okay, but the biggest one, ChatGPT. My goodness, right? It is, like I said before, it is a computer language or a program, and then it is really, really good at coding, right? If you ever had it like write, it's really good at writing, right, MTS? Great at writing, puts together really good, he puts together really good sentences and grammar and all that stuff, and honestly, it's a tool that you should be using for your writing. But then also, it's even better at coding. It's really good. And not to, this is what's really hard for me, is like showing you this, for instance, right? So this is, I have the paid version, so maybe it's a little bit better, but I said, all right, here, I need to put together, can you put together a solution for this homework for a class that I'm teaching? And I just gave it the PDF for homework 1, which I'll assign here shortly, right? And then I said, go for it, and then it says, sure. And then this is what its output is, right? Its output is what you see here, right? Oh, problem 1, right? Problem 1, play Handel's Hallelujah Chorus. Yep, here's the code that you would do to do that, right? Problem 2, I didn't tell it, I didn't say structure it like this. It just saw my homework. It goes, all right, let me just answer problem 2 now. Oh, problem 2 is this, you know, and then gravitate for, right? And then it puts together the whole thing and is in really good code, right? And then it goes problem 3. I gave it no other prompts. I just gave it a PDF, and then it just did the whole thing. So it's like, well, son of a bitch, what am I teaching you this for, right? Well, again, what it can handle is usually pretty simple code. It cannot do really advanced codes. And so, sure, it can handle the simple stuff, but it can't handle the really nested and the really fancy stuff. And so, you know, I say, so like, what do you do in this class? Well, don't do this, okay? Don't just plug it into ChatGPT and say, give me a solution, right? Because you have to learn from it. And so what I would do if I were you, because again, I'm going to test you at some point, what I would do is I would do it myself. And then if I get stuck, I would poke with ChatGPT and say, hey, could you help me out with this a little bit, right? Like there's something, you give it your code and say, here's my code, something's wrong with this, can you fix it for me? And then it should be able to go through and fix it. I think at some point that functionality will just be built into MATLAB. I would think it would be, right? Like I tried a code and I did something wrong and it'd be like, oh, let me just fix this for you, idiot, right? I mean, kind of like that little AI platform or that little playground that we were in where it just like corrects it as you're going along, right? You know, as you said, as I mentioned before, like, those of you that have used it before, like you might spend hours figuring out that you're just missing, like some error coming up and like, what is it? It's because you left a dot out of one of your calculations, you know, so you say do element by element math instead of matrix math. And then, but anyways, just know this, use it responsibly, but try to do it, you can learn it yourself, right? Don't just, you know, this class isn't about, I mean, we could use ChatGPT a lot, but it's not about, can you take my homeworks and plug it into MATLAB or into like, I'm not trying to teach you that, and plug it into this and then let it run and then you just give me back what it said to do, right? I want you to do it yourself because you need that, you need those tools and help do. And also, right, it's not perfect, right? Is that right? When we used it for structural dynamics, it had errors in it, and then if you had to know a little bit about programming so you could figure out what those errors were. Any questions about that? We're all adults here. Use it responsibly. ChatGPT responsibly. Okay, so let's just dive in. Here's the basic MATLAB window. If you haven't, so there's only one person that hasn't even touched MATLAB, is that correct? Is that Hudson? Or is it Ethan? Ethan. But I was talking about that Hudson. I don't think he's done much with it either. But how did you? Oh, you skipped that class. You skipped that class. So this is it, right? This is the main structure of it. This is the default view you get, I believe, when you install it. We have files and stuff over here. Like this is our current directory and what's in the current directory on the left. We have this thing right here is called the editor, and that's where we type all of our code, and it changes colors and it does all. It does some like smart text editing is what it is, kind of like a text editor. And then down at the bottom is the output that MATLAB gives you, and we'll give you lots of examples, but this area down here is the output. So if I run this code up here, anything that gets output from this code will get printed out here in what they call the command window. In the command window, I can put anything. I can put 2 + 2 and 5 + 6, and I can type whatever I want to down there, but the problem is there's no memory in the command window. So if I want memory, I have to make this little text editor up here, and I do all my typing up there. Over on the right here is the workspace. So these are all the variables that are current in this computer. So if I set a variable x equal to something, or in this case it looks like j is equal to 7, then it'll tell me what my stored variables are over here on the side. Okay, and so that's the main structure. And then if you ever plot anything or give a print, it usually kicks it out as an exterior like little window. Okay, and that's when you run a plain .m file. There's also this thing called a live script, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But this is just like your the basic layout. And we'll get into more of those details. Okay. All right. So actually, right now I'll talk about it. So there's two different types of script. So these things are called scripts, okay? And we use the editor to modify them. There's two different ones. There's a .m file and a .mlx file. A .m file is just the standard way. This is the only thing that used to exist when I was your age. It was just .m files. But then they have this thing called a live script, which is over on the right. If you have a .m file, right, you put in the stuff into your script, and then you run it, and then down in the command window, your output comes, and then any plot you have comes out as a separate window. Okay, and so there's some strengths to this. We'll get back to that in a second. But there's also a .mlx file, which is called a live script, right? In a live script, what it does is I type all this stuff right here, and then it shows up directly on the right. It doesn't show up in the command window. It shows up in the editor over on the right. To be honest, if you're just like doing some basic calculations and stuff like that, live scripts are the best because it's nice and it's aesthetically pleasing. You can change. Sometimes you can have, right now I have the calculation showing up on the right. You could make the calculations show up right underneath each of the calculations you want. We're going to do a bunch of these later, but it'll show up right underneath it. But if you're doing something that involves lots of calculations, like my gunner file that had the shooting and it had to check to see, you don't look at the code. You don't look at the output. You just look at the graphical user interface and you look to see like, oh, I hit it, I didn't hit it, all that stuff. Those, they run way smoother. .m's run super smooth and super fast. .mlx's, if you're doing lots and lots of calculations, you don't want to use a .mlx. If you're doing this for a homework and you're just trying to demonstrate a quick plot or something like that, .mlx is the way to go. You can also embed stuff into .mlx. Did anybody ever do this? Where you could put like images and you could put the problem statement. You could put all that stuff in the live script. Did anybody ever do that? Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you could just drag the PDF into this. Yeah, and then you have a little plot. So you could say like, here's the problem statement that's right there, and then you could have the code underneath it, and then it's just, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it works pretty good. Yeah. You could do that. And so like, you know, I'll try to guide you a little bit on which one to use. Again, you know, .mlx, the live script, you know, I guess I could demonstrate some of these things. All right, so this is a .m file. You can see it's 3-story .m. There it says right there. Should I make these bigger? Noah? You know, I'm gonna, no, I just hit a brain fart because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna call you one of your brother's names at some point. Have I done it?
Like one of them.
What's that?
Like a long time ago.
Yeah, I did, but I read about them in the news and shit, and I'm gonna do it. So you are Noah.
I am.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I wasn't calling you your brother's name. Your roommates. Now, so this is .m, right? And it runs really smooth, and you can see all the output shows up down below here. Let's do even a simpler one, untile folder. Right, so this is .m. It says, you know, a is equal to 5, x is equal to 7. These are really small, though, aren't they? Oh, look at that. A little bigger. Why the hell did the command window is huge, but then the editor is a little bigger. I don't want the command window bigger. Right? A plus x, or a plus x. Right? And if I run this as, right? If I run it, then here down here, right? It tells me a is equal to 5, x is equal to 7, and the answer to a plus x is 12. Right? So it spits it down below. Runs super fast, and that's fine. But if I change this, if I do the same thing, I'm going to create a new live script. It costs and then I would say a is equal to 5, x is equal to 7, a plus x. Right? Now if I run this section of code, right, it shows up just to the right. Right? And so like if you're just trying to demonstrate something like that, this is beautiful because it just shows up right there. And then like I said before, you could change the way it looks over here. You could change the layout of it. I could say I want them in line. So then I'll say A is equal to this, and this is it, right? And so this is really clean. This is a really clean way, especially if you're doing just like little simple calculations, right? Sometimes it's nice to have it over to the right. Sometimes it's nice to have it underneath. Sometimes it's nice to run a .m file. And like I said, I'll try to steer you in that regard. Right? I'm just gonna hit the little fire hose stuff thrown at you. All right, current directory, right? So, like I said before, right? I can down here in this command window, I can run anything I want. I could say, you know, 5 plus 5, right? And it'll calculate it like that. That's where the calculations are actually happening. The problem with it down there, like I said, is there's no memory of it, right? If I wanted to run that same calculation again, I would have to type it again. And that's where those editors come in. Is it's a text file that you save, and you can change things and update them and stuff like that. So this is kind of the code that's up here, okay? In order to run this code, it has to be in a specific location, okay? In order to run that code, it has to be in the current directory, okay? And the current directory is kind of it's up here. Right now, it's MATLAB drive C512, ECIV 512. That's the current directory. So to run that, it has to be in there, okay? And then over here on the side too, you could also see the current folder. There's all the files that are in that current directory as well, right? Now, what I like to do is use this MATLAB drive. And I highly recommend that you too do the MATLAB drive. Did everybody get that set up when you did the installation? I think did you get it working there, Elliot? Once you create a file, it's automatic. I think once you create an account and you log in when you install it, it should be available. And I think it's just this little button right here. But I need to find a way to get this bigger, don't I? It's so small. Just give me a second. I'm gonna see if I can adjust the.